Thanks a lot for, first of all, for the invitation and for the introduction. I'm really looking forward to enjoy the whole event, and the first talk was really good. And yes, as Sonia mentioned, I'm currently the head of IoT at Teka Group. Just very briefly, who we are and what we do. Teka Group is a multinational German-born company that is specialized in the manufacturing of kitchen and bath appliances. We have been doing that for the last 98 years. Currently, we have 11 factories and over 4,000 employees worldwide with commercial activities across all continents. And here on the right, you can see some of the brands of the group that works especially in Europe. My talk is focusing on the role of smart homes and the path towards a more sustainable and resilient energy system. And the first thing I want to introduce is a smart home. It's something that is quite common, but Pasi mentioned before in his talk some of the current challenges we have, like incompatibility of products. But at the end of the day, a smart home is basically a place where people develop daily activities. So this is important to keep in mind, that people is the core aspect and the core actor of smart homes. Then when we work with several smart homes, we can create buildings, or we can talk about smart buildings by aggregating their assets and the information that they generate. We can go even further with the districts and taking to the next level, which is cities. At each of these phases, we are addressing different challenges, starting from the local optimization and towards the full automation, not only or covering several different domains. Coming to the domains, it's also important to know that even a smart home looks like a single domain. It is composed by many of them. Multimedia, comfort, and security are the three that are more consolidated so far. But we have also some emerging ones like e-health, the smart kitchen, or the electric vehicles that are currently growing in relevance in terms of the adoption of smart homes and the use of connected technologies and connected assets in the homes themselves. Some insights that gives the current situation is that we have a large amount of stakeholders. They are coming from different domains, and the difference among domains are quite important, basically because we are talking about different devices in terms not only of the features or functionalities that they are offering, but also in terms of the capabilities they have. It's not the same what we have on board of electric vehicle, that the basic sensor basically to check the humidity of a plant we have at home. Also, there is a lack of interoperability and the standard adoption, and there is a complex regulatory environment because it's not only what affects to the data, but also what affects to each individual domain separately. So the main concept or the main idea behind all these smart home things is that the real cooperation today can only happen at data level in the cloud. Maybe in the future we can work in the edge, and there are some interesting initiatives getting into it. But today the reality is that the cloud is the space in which we can create this collaboration among those multiple domains of a smart home. Now, focusing more on the energy side, there are mainly two energy optimization drivers. The first one is quite common, which is how to reduce the consumption of the devices we have at home. And here we have the regulation, which is, let's say, the biggest force that is pushing the manufacturers like us to reduce the energy consumption of the products we manufacture. Of course, we all want to position ourselves better in the market with a good leveling in terms of energy. But also the way this level is obtained is by using some or combining eco programs that are not always the ones that people really use. So this is good, and the regulation help us to frame how we develop the products. But if we really want to address energy optimization, we have also to look at the opportunities that the connectivity and the connected products gives to us. And this is basically through the optimization of the energy use with flexibility, relying on the smart home actors and the assets to reduce the energy footprint that the smart home has. Basically, how to incentivize the people to use their products in a certain way, because through the connectivity we are going to have much more data that allow us basically to address the specific points we want them to change. Also, how to open access to energy consumption related features in home appliances. There are some things that should not require the interaction of people. So how to enable this to happen. And finally, how to get full traceability of everything that is related to the optimization of the energy consumption. At the end, we are going to create a more complex ecosystem with different actors, different stakeholders taking place in the scene. So it's important to have this traceability, basically to resolve all the potential problems that could happen. So it's important to have this picture in mind. There is a part that is the regulation in basically focusing on improving the products themselves, but there is a huge gap of improvement if we work exploiting the flexibility through connected products and services. As I said before, smart homes starts with people, and this is something that we cannot ignore, because it's most of the times the main problem when we start defining how we want smart home systems to work. And in what concerns to energy, there are three aspects that we need to be very clear. And because in our case, in Teka, we manufacture kitchen appliances, we took this video very seriously, well, because it's not easy to make people change their mind when they are hungry. So the first one is that the energy ecosystem is a complex environment. It's not easy for people to understand who are the actors, DSO, TSO, retailer, aggregators. There are a lot of different actors and the role they play. It's not easy to follow. The second element is, as I said before, when we are trying to improve energy performance, we need to decide whether the intervention of end users, of consumers, is required or not, because we want to give them solutions, not to create new problems to improve how the systems work. And the third element is to educate and share the benefits of environmental conscious actions. I always use an example. We did some years ago an exercise in Serbia, and we saw that people were not as moved through economical incentives by reducing the energy bills, rather than competing with the neighborhood by them. Basically to check which of the neighborhoods was more green in terms of energy awareness. So it's important to educate and share what are the benefits of our action, going beyond how we are going to reduce our bills. So this is important, and this is the baseline for us, because if you don't have the people in mind, it's very complicated to really take advantage of all the potential that connected technologies can bring. And here is where digitalization have a role to play. And now in the next slides, I will share with you how we as a home appliance manufacturer see the role of digitalization and the different levels that we are covering, and how they affect to us. So there are like three key aspects I want to tackle today. The first one is digital twins. Pasi mentioned before a lot of good information that I will 100% include in my talk. So he helped me a lot, and I will save some time in some of the aspects. The second element is the APIs. This is one probably the most important aspect for us. in terms of creating an ecosystem and building services on top of the products we manufacture. And the third point is traceability and liability. This is a less technical aspect. I mean, it's not really challenging in terms of how to implement them, but it's probably one of the most important to create peace of mind for the consumers when participating in this kind of ecosystems or services. Last point, because I have to mention it, although I'm not going to cover, is cybersecurity. Okay. So for the digital twins, in terms of home appliances, for us, what is important is that they impact transversally the company. It's not getting information of how they are performing, but the value of the information they are generating is huge. One of the questions before was about how digital twins respond to fraud. I will share our view. Because we are getting real-time product information, real-time product monitoring information, getting accurate information in a time series format of what the product is doing at every 5 seconds in our case. So these insights or the data and its analysis can give us information for the definition of the category, how the products are used, what are the features that people use more than others, what is the consumer perception, at what times people cook. So there are a lot of insights that can give us, let's say, not real insight. It's not the perception is not a user panel. It's basically what people is doing at home. So for the fraud, one of the things that we are taking as an asset for us is the information of basically every single process that the product has followed. So it's quite easy for us for our after sales service to demonstrate whether it's a fault in our product that unfortunately sometimes is the case. But if someone is trying to play with us, now we have data that assess that is not the case. The second area in which digital twins is really relevant for us is in terms of engineering and factories. And here what we are getting is as well a performance assessment of all the different subsystems that compose a product. Of course, when we talk about digital twin, we can get as deep as we can. And sometimes, or for some subsystems, at least in our case, it makes sense to make the effort and to invest in get the full, let's say, digital twin. But for some others, we can get with some, let's say, light version, just not to get the full monitoring of how every piece of the product works, but some specific systems, and with all the other things we can move on, because the cost versus the impact that we are going to or the problem we are going to generate to solve, makes less sense. So for the second element, which is the APIs and how the brands enable access to the features that can be beneficial for third parties, especially in the area of smart homes, and as Pasi said before, with the incompatibility of services and products. What we have seen is basically two main aspects. The first one is the development of new interfaces. Right now, every manufacturer that creates a connected product has to invest also in bringing some digital way of controlling it. And then Google, Apple, Amazon, start commercializing the voice assistant or the smart speakers for homes, acting like the smart home hub. There are also some people that basically, or companies that develop smart home hubs, which basically try to give support to every connected product in the market. And for a company like ours, it's basically, they offer a way of improving the way our products can be controlled digitally. That's the reality. So one of the things that we have done, even we create our own app, and we get quite good feedback from the consumers with it, was to explore how we can leverage on these technologies to improve even more and to facilitate the use of our products. And we have the one feature in our ovens, which are the auto recipes, in which you have a 7-step navigation process in which you select the product, you go into the subcategory of the product, then how much it weighs, then it is what is the doneness you want. I think the last point is to select the temperature at which you want to get the product roast, and then you have all the settings in the oven put. We have take advantage of our open APIs to use Alexa solution and simplify this 7-step navigation process into Alexa, ask the home to bake my chicken. Alexa asks back how much does it weigh. You tell, 1 kilo, for instance. Then which is the doneness do you like? I want it done because I don't like it rare. And through these 2 questions and my initial request to Alexa, you are simplifying a 7-step navigation process. We have seen, and there's the data we get, that through this simplification, the use of auto recipes have been boosted in our case because it's much simpler. We are still ramping up in the deployment of the products, but this is, let's say, information that we are getting from the users, and we are not asking them. We are just checking our cloud and the digital twins to see that this is actually happening. The second area in which OpenAPIs makes an impact is in the connection or in the implementation of other services. In this case, I will focus on energy ones, but of course it could be or the same way or the same technology can be applied to others. And here we have 2 categories. The first one is the energy-related services at home, like the planning of renewable generation with your solar panel. The definition of consumption profiles, what I'm going to do during the week or in the weekend. How to manage the storage capabilities in terms of energy, which batteries, but could be also through electric vehicles, and also at the end of the day, how to manage the flexibility that a smart home has. Now we have also to have in mind that a smart home with generation capabilities are not only energy consumers, but they become prosumers through the possibility of injecting into the network some of the energy they are creating. So it's really important, basically, to give the opportunity to the energy management systems of the houses to control as many loads as possible, and in this case, our home appliances are part of those loads. I will share an example right now. The second part, which is the optimization of the grid, basically relies on the home energy management system, but the use cases can be based basically the load balancing, race curtailment, or the operation of the distributed energy resources. But going back on an example in which we are using our APIs to basically to improve the way or basically to be more greener, or more green in a real scenario. We have an implementation in Italy in which we have a student's apartment building in a new university, in which they have this is just a fake consumption profile. The real I cannot share it. And they have also some renewable generation systems, basically through wind turbines. So what they have deployed our dishwashers, and basically they want to aggregate and create a consumption profile that basically follows the generation. The traditional approach with energy is generation follows consumption. Now, with what we are trying to implement is a system in which consumption follows generation. So what we have done is basically to limit the use of the dishwashers to those moments in which the wind turbines are working. And if the amount of electricity that is created by the wind turbines is not so high, basically we limit the use of the dishwashers to the eco program. So this way probably is not, let's say, optimal and cannot be applied to other use cases. But this way, we are basically using the open APIs and the opportunities that controllable loads like a dishwasher are to optimize the way energy system is working in the campus, and also to reduce the dependency on external sources in terms of energy that, well, everyone knows now how important it is to be energy independent. The last point was the traceability and liability. And here I don't want to spend too much time, but it's important to highlight that we are living in Europe under the GDPR regulation, and there are digital sovereignty is the key, and transparency and activity record is something that it's important to keep in mind. So this transparency and activity record, what is enabling us is basically in case of dispute to know precisely who is liable for what and how, and to give also the tools and the data that demonstrate what have happened in a certain moment, and defend always to the customer given the information that have been generated by our product. So it's keeping the information under the ownership of consumers and bring it to them just to solve the potential questions or risks that could happen. So just to summarize and to finalize my talk, 4 points, sorry. The first one is the consumer focus. I commented several times, but it's important to reinforce the message. The first thing should be who is going to be the user, and who is going to pay for what. If you don't solve them a problem, there is no possibility that a perfect technical system is going to work with them. The second point is the digital twins is the most powerful tool that the connectivity has bring to us, as I said before, not only in terms of features for the product, but also to planning and to market our commercial activities. The openness as the only way to create an ecosystem or to participate into an ecosystem that can be integrated into a more connected world, but also a way of giving and creating products and services that are more accessible. And finally, the partners I don't mention during the talk, but it's important to know what are let's say, where is the knowledge in your companies and how to leverage on the right partners to go into the specific aspects that came out, that are out of your knowledge. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I'm here now ready to answer your questions.
Powerful presentation, and it was extremely difficult to find easy questions because you covered all the items, unfortunately, so professionally. What kind of items you consider the most important in the platform?
Yeah, for me, the most important part, and when we started designing the project, it was my main concern was the provisioning of the devices. Because manufacturing is, for some of them are here in Spain, but we are shipping worldwide, even in China. So we need a system that is scalable and doesn't depend on a single point. So this provisioning was probably, was my main concern from the beginning. Once we solve that issue, I think that then the availability, it's and also the tools then can give to implement in the firmware of the devices. Yeah, that is another good point that we took into consideration to select, let's say, the basic platform, because this is like an onion. We have a first layer in which you build, let's say, the core, But then for the services, you are adding other platforms that that can perform and increase the value. As I said before, is knowing what are the parts that we can cover. The first connection is good. Everything that is related to how people cook as well can be done by us. But now when we are moving now forward towards the data analysis and all these things, is something that is completely out of the scope of the company in terms of knowledge. Creating a team internally, it's expensive, and we don't have the resources. So it's identifying who is the partner that can help us on this, and through APIs, exactly the same way they can connect, get the data, and analyze it. So this is, I think, that the answer to the first part of the question. Regarding to the second point, which is the edge. I think there are huge of use cases that doesn't require connect to the internet. There are one simple thing that all the brands are bringing right now, which is the connection between the cooker hood and the induction hob or the gas hob. It's basically to put the extraction level according to what you are cooking. That is something that today, if you are not using local communication, well, first, it's not possible to have two connected, or the induction hob and the hood connected if they are not from the same brand, which makes no sense at all because everyone implement the service in the same way. So this is something that should not require a connection to the cloud. It could be basically to validate how the service is done, make all the security assessment at the edge level, should be fine. And also for the implementation of energy related services, I think for local optimization can be done also in the edge. It's a matter of trust on who is implementing the server. If you trust who is implementing the server, I don't need to go to the cloud. It's just direct connection to the device, and as I said before, have a traceability of what have been done.
This is a big curiosity question. How does the customers on the different market areas, meaning Europe, Asia Pacific, Americas, vary in terms of the security, privacy, and the community thinking?
I will be very honest here. We haven't received yet any question about privacy. So, I mean, we are quite transparent in which is the information we are collecting and why. And it's also because of our size that we are not Google. We are not going to make a lot of profit, especially at the beginning of with the information that we are getting from people. And we are not targeting because once you have bought a kitchen appliance, let's say that another buy or another sell is hard to get. So we are not, let's say, it's not like an e-commerce which is pushing a lot of information to you, basically to get insights about well, how to increase the ticket and how to make a new. Or to increase the revenue during the lifetime. It's basically one purchase during the lifetime, and probably in 10 years you are going to change. So this is something that I think is quite good for us, because on the one hand, it allows us to be really transparent on what we are doing with the data, which is basically to understand how people use our products and improve the products themselves. And at the other hand, people is not concerned about the fact of you are spying me or things like that. The ones who are really on the use of connected products, which is, I would say, around 50% of the people who buy connected products, they are really connecting it, which is, well, something that is curious, but it's like it is. Yeah, this is not well, a concern that no one has put so far.
I'm over, or we are over the time, but I have one more question which I have to place. What is the coolest change you think will happen in the future concerning the smart homes?
So far, I haven't, or until now, I haven't been really optimistic with all the efforts of new standards, harmonization, and things like that. There is always the joke of standards, and there are 15 standards. We need to create a new standard to harmonize the 15 previous, and now we have 16 standards different. But I don't know if you have heard about Matter, which is a protocol for a smart home, in which, and that's the first time that we have in the same table working together ST, NXP, and Espressif as manufacturers, as chip manufacturers, and we have also at service level Google, Amazon, Samsung, and Apple. So it's basically all the big players are there. So this is the first time I'm a bit optimistic, but we'll see, because I have seen many times these kind of efforts that it's more public communication, like I want to make things better, but then there is no effort, not real effort behind. But this time is I think it's going to be different, because especially companies like ours are struggling when we try to build, let's say, more complex services, collaborating with other companies that makes total sense to work together, because we don't have this compatibility, and it's not scalable if you start working one by one.
Correct. Thank you very much for excellent presentation and perfect answers for the questions. Now I will hand over for Sonia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Juan, also from my side.